reporting about it. It wasn't reporters saying, oh, Mormonism's right, Mormonism's wrong. They were saying, this is Mormonism. And so they called it the Mormon moment. You have all these non-Mormon people talking about it. And that was great, and I didn't read a whole lot of it. I've got it, sort of figured out what I need to know about it. But it made me think of the ultimate moment, okay? And I finally feel like, after 40 years, ultimate's not being defended, and not every single piece of literature that is about ultimate is like, well, it's not just on beaches anymore, and it's not just with your dog. And I saw, and it's like we've seen how many news articles about that where it's like we are stuck in the same rut with ultimate for 40 years. And I finally feel like, I'm going to talk a little bit about why I feel like that and what it means. We're getting to this point where we can just talk about ultimate. We don't have to clarify. We don't have to be like, yeah, I sort of went out of town. Oh, where'd you go? Florida. What for? To play frisbee football, with some of my friends. And no, did you bring your wife? No, just me and a bunch of dudes went to Florida for a week. So, and that was sort of it. And I put Darwin up here because I think it's important that we understand what's happening and what you guys can do so that we make sure we evolve with it and we don't get stuck being dead and on the side and everything like that. So I had a couple cool things. I went to... I know, this is good. I told you. I knew I had to follow you. You had good stuff. I went to the U.S. Open this year. USA Ultimate, I won, and they paid for me to go out there and put me up for the week and watch a bunch of high-level Ultimate. And so I went to these conferences every morning, and I got to hear what USA Ultimate is trying to do. And I don't know where you guys are at with USA Ultimate. Before this, and before really the last year and a half, I had zero relationship with them, except for when they were disqualifying us or telling BYU not to come to their tournaments anymore or whatever it was. It was just a very one-dimensional relationship. And so it was cool to hear. It's like, wow, they really are working on some really cool stuff. Or wow, they're changing. This is very different from the experience I had, as a 17-year-old, as a 20-year-old playing at BYU. And so what does this ultimate moment mean to us? I think there's three things that I sort of picked out. One, there's an open, constant discussion that involves more than just us, more than what Simon is telling you about, more than what Tara is telling you about. Ultimate is being discussed, and we don't have total control of the discussion anymore because we're not the only ones talking about it. Okay, that's a good thing and that's a bad thing, but there's articles that are being written out there that are terribly misinformed and really, really exciting. To get to read an article about Golden Spike that was just about Golden Spike's game and not like clarifying what Ultimate was one of the most refreshing reads I've ever had. And it was so cool to read that. It's like it took us 40 years to get over that, but we finally did. Number two is the growth. And Tara talked a lot about the explosive growth we're having, and there's some really cool things that the growth implies for us as players and for us as an organization. And then number three, the degrees of separation. Okay, we're going to be 6 degrees away from Kevin Bacon by the time Ultimate's done. At this point, when Simon wanted to form UUDA, he wanted to do it because, he said he knew everyone who was working on UUDA. And you've got Tara, who's been wearing 9 hats in Youth Ultimate. And eventually, we're going to have to get to a point where Tara doesn't know every single coach, and we can't vouch for every coach because other people are doing it. If we're going to have 60 coaches, I don't want to know people out in Duquesne County and like, hey, look, I really need you to drive out there twice a week for a practice. I want to be able to have the organization set up and be so separated because Ultimate has independently grown in all these different areas. So that's what we're here. So again, it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. All of these images here make you feel a certain way in that on the national scene, there are some things that are happening, again, independent of what we want, independent of what USA Ultimate wants. Brody Smith has put himself out on a YouTube channel, and whether you are for that, I had to listen to some of those high schoolers who love him. And what they tried to tell me how to run my BYU practices based on what they saw on the Brody Smith 21 channel. It's like, well, actually, we do things a little bit differently here. Okay, you got USA Ultimate, and Simon told you about their Triple Crown Tour. I'm jumping on the Rise Up bandwagon. If you guys haven't seen those videos, please YouTube them and please give them your money because they are one of the best organizations and one of the best minds in Ultimate doing a high-quality product. And then there is finally, on the national scene, there is financial incentive. And so I put up our Salt Lake Lions AUDL franchise here, and I put up Next Gen. There are companies where there is a capital investment or there is the promise or potential of capital return in Ultimate. And so those things, that shows a shift in dynamics of Ultimate community where for the last 40 years, everything has been amateur level. Everything has been just for the player. There was no other audience, no other purpose except for what could you directly get out of it. What does playing Ultimate do for you? And the only reason they have a national championships is the potential that you might go there. And so it's just showing that nationally there is a big shift. We've seen ESPN top 10 plays, and they are still painful to listen to, but they're at least addressing it. And Scott Van Pelt, provides some. Barack Obama mentions it in a speech. Like, that's cool. That's new. That's different. A little closer to home, there's some big opportunities, and with each of these opportunities presents a good thing and a bad thing. One, people will be hearing the ultimate message. This is good because they're hearing it. It's bad because it might not be from us. And so it's super important that we are expanding our structure before we get into a problem with people trying to do their own high school tournaments or state championships when it's like, oh, no, we already did that. We've done that. We've got that there. It's good because that's showing rapid growth, and we have a wider talent and volunteer pool. It's bad because, again, there might be a split in the community. Some people who butter their toast this way and other people who butter their toast that way. Whatever the conflict is, when there's independent messages being delivered, there might be independent beliefs, and so you're going to see some clash. Number two, people are going to want more out of their ultimate experience. I wish Isaac Conley was here today, because he, for me, is an example of the non-typical ultimate player. Does everyone here know Isaac? Everyone's got a pretty good picture of Isaac in their head. He should be playing baseball, okay? Everything tells me Isaac belongs playing baseball or football or some... it's like, it's Isaac. And I love Isaac for being Isaac, and I don't know him super well, but it's like he is just that guy. And there's other guys, like you think of like Kip, it's like, and he was born to play Ultimate. And, it's like he just belongs there. That's his personality, that's who he is, and he fits into the mold. But there's going to be more and more Isaac Conleys coming along who are not going to be what we think should be the ultimate player. And so how do we adjust to that? And what are they going to want out of Ultimate? And, people like Isaac Conleys are super motivated and super athletic and super competitive. How do we adjust? A good thing is we've got competitive people that want to play Ultimate. The bad thing is, how do we adjust to meet their experience expectations and maybe a previous generation's or a different part of the community, different segment of the community's expectations? And then finally, the democracy of the game of Ultimate, as so many different people, they're going to weigh in. It's going to be a little bit different. What does that mean for the high school? Are we going to start to get parents? Lone Peak's got a tough reputation in their other sports for having some extremely overly active and influential parents in their sports programs. What's going to happen when they're going to be demanding certain things from Krupa? And 48 no is not enough. They want to be 500 no before they're happy. And how do we adjust with that? How do we provide when they show up to our fields and it's cool that we don't have seating? What happens when it doesn't become cool? What happens when we don't have collegiate scholarships for these kids before they're ready for it,
Sorry.
And so those are three things to consider. Exactly. That's where Rich, he's got hard work and money. We're going to need $50,000 a year for that. So I want to talk about a couple of examples of things that, again, why do I think we're in the ultimate moment? What have I seen? And three things came to mind. One was Spike. 3 years ago, if I could have hoped for everyone on Spike to break their ACLs at the same time, I would have been happy thinking about that. We hated each other. It was that group of people up in Salt Lake that I have no personal relationship to. They are not people to me. They are just people that I love to beat when possible on the ultimate field. They weren't even humans. And I saw an attitude shift. I saw a focus shift this year. And I thought about trying to get in touch with their captains and interviewing them before this and be like, hey, what did you guys do differently? But the fact was, I didn't have to do it. I didn't have to, going back to the Mormon moment, I didn't have to apologize for them. I didn't have to have, 2 Golden Spike missionaries come knock on my door and tell me about what they're doing for me to know that something was different. Something had changed there. And I think we saw the results of that. You guys did really well at sectionals. I saw a really cool article on it. You guys represented Utah well at regionals. And for me, to feel a sense of pride for Golden Spike was both painful and confusing, but also, but also refreshing in that it meant they were doing something right and we were doing something right. If I, a Utah Countyan, could be proud of that, we had gotten somewhere. That was a big step for me. And then the ripple effect of that, looking, what does that mean? I saw a shift in Killjoys this year, which is the men's club team down there, where we went from straight, City League all-stars who happen to play in a couple of tournaments to say, hey, maybe we should have a tryout. Maybe we should do a team fee thing. Maybe we should be consistent with our practices. That was a cool ripple effect and something that I saw changing. We didn't have to have someone from Golden Spike come down and like, actually, this is how you're going to run the H-stack. This is going to be a lot better for you. Just kidding. You guys would never run an H-stack. But we didn't have to have the 1 degree of separation. We didn't have to say, hey, I'm Tara. I'm going to change this for you. There was a degrees of separation change that you guys, you Spikians, didn't have to directly influence. That just happened. Number 2 that I want to talk about, and this is some hometown favoritism for me. This is BYU. I coach BYU right now. And the change I would say would be the level of athlete we're attracting as a team. Fortunately, we were blessed to have every single graduate of the high school league come to us this year. And so we had 25 freshmen who I didn't even have to find. They had to find me. And they were like, hey, exactly. They were trying to get in touch. Who runs BYU? That, for any of you guys that have played for the last ever in Ultimate, is new. That's something different. And with those numbers and with that attitude of people saying, hey, we're not trying to get you to come. We're not trying to sell Ultimate to you. You're trying to sell yourself to BYU. There were some really cool changes. The team expectations shifted. The level of practices this year, we have yet to have a practice where we didn't have less than 30 and 35 people, which means we don't have a practice where we're like, well, what can we do with 7 people today? Let's just play some hot box and call it good. We are able to run practices. We had to buy our practice jerseys. We had to buy them in 3 colors because we would have 3 teams rotating off the field at any one time. These are cool problems to be having as an Ultimate coach. For you guys that coach high school, I mean, you can imagine the problems of saying, well, we've got too many people here. We're going to have to make cuts, and that's what BYU had to do. As such, when people knew that there was a prize, when people knew that they were fighting for a spot on a team, the level of just awesomeness at practices is exponential. Not only that, when a new guy shows up, the guy that comes no offense if you guys play barefoot, but the guy that comes barefoot, he's like, yeah, I'm here to play some Frisbee football. He's turned off by our experience. And the other guys, these athletes, these guys that, as a wide receiver in high school, this looks really competitive. You guys have, plyo ladders out. You guys are running wind sprints, and this seems really competitive. I want to be a part of that. That was the shift for me when I got these high-level recruits. It's like, I don't have to teach you to be coordinated. I have to teach you to throw a Frisbee. That's a good recruit for me, and so that was exciting. And then the third one was our... Sorry, got that? Okay, good. One more thing to BYU. The other thing that we've been focusing on, and this has been sort of my thing that I love, is our reach, our drive. I went to that USAU conference, and they talked about how they've been trying to sell pony versus double wide for years, and you can't sell that. He talked to one of their VPs, is a ex-marketing director for NASCAR and Coca-Cola, and he's like, you can't sell that to TV. You're like, hey, we've got this sweet game, Revolver versus Ironside. To some of us in here, that means a lot. We're like, I would kill to see that game. To everyone else in America, though, outside of the 200 Facebook fans that each of them have, it means nothing. And that is a shame that we have some of the best athletes. And I watched those guys in Florida this year. My favorite part of going to Florida to our NIT tournament was getting to watch the big boys play. Those guys are athletes, and it is a beautiful game when those guys play it. But no one cares, and that breaks my heart. But what he was saying was, his point was it has to be the colleges, and that we have a rivalry built in with 750,000 alumni that hate the U or hate BYU. And they don't care if it's freaking competitive ribbon dancing. If the U is beating BYU in something, they will tune in, they will watch. And so instead of trying to reinvent, we have to, like Simon was saying, when they wanted that, they went down to the colleges, and we have that opportunity here. We have a built-in audience that hates the other school. We just have to put a field and teach them a couple of rules. And so I've been working really hard to build a not first degree, not second degree, but third degree relationship with BYU. We've been heavily active on Facebook and trying not to do it. When I put stuff on Facebook on that group, it's not for my guys. It's not an inside joke like, sweet practice tonight, bro. That was so cool. It's a fan-friendly, I don't know you, you don't know me, but you know BYU Ultimate experience. And some of the numbers so far, this is really cool for me. We have Friends of Fans, 275,000 roughly. Not even roughly, 262,000, I should just say the number, it's right there. But we have access to 250,000 people as a BYU Ultimate team. That means every time, if I tag all of my guys in a Facebook photo, I've got 250,000 people who are going to see that. And that message, that seed is going to be planted so that the next time they see it, or the next time that, our weekly reach, it was a slow week, we're at 2,200. We've had weekly reaches of 15,000 though, which means they are actively engaging with BYU Ultimate, even if they're just looking at our photos. Those are exciting numbers, and that's how we're going to get from 5 teams to 7 teams to 8 teams to 80 teams in high school ultimate. That's how we're going to get people who are going to want to watch Club Golden Spike versus Black Betty because they already know ultimate, because they were introduced to it through these avenues. And then high school, the one thing I just want to say about high school is the high school program we have here, the way I know it's changing, it was sort of a personal thing for me. And I see high school bringing Utah together. UUDA has been around for a couple of years, and it's been good. But I see myself getting to know names like Matt Bybee from Logan and getting to know Salt Lake people because of high school. I don't think if it weren't for high school, I don't think we would have the need or the drive to get together and to get to know each other. And so high school, I think, is the engine that's going to take us there. It's going to be the vehicle that we all jump in that gets Utah and UUDA going as one big thing. So the future of the ultimate movement, I look at lacrosse. This is lacrosse here. And when I did a Google search for lacrosse growth statistics, this was the #1 image that popped up. And you got this sweet curve. And there's a lot of similarities. I ran club lacrosse programs in Texas before I moved here. And I see a lot. I feel like we're 10 years behind where they're at. And it's about to blow up. When I did the same thing, I searched for ultimate growth statistics. This is the image that came up. And so we're not quite there yet. We've got some ground to cover because there's still guys, that's still the picture that comes up. And so if someone were to search for that, that would be a step backwards. That would be a step in the wrong direction. But in terms of what this means to Utah, what does it mean to you guys? Why does this matter? One, you have to believe what we're doing and what Ultimate is doing. Again, whether you support it or not, whether or not you hate the AUDL, you hate MLU, or you hate the Triple Crown, it doesn't matter. Those things are happening. And, whatever one is right or wrong, we're not here to make right or wrong. Again, this isn't, the apologist defending, going back to Mormonism or not Mormonism. It isn't that. It's just a discussion. Hey, this exists. What do you think about it? So there's going to be independent and separate discussions, but we have to acknowledge that that's happening, and then we have to decide as Utah and UUDA what we're going to do about it. We have an awesome opportunity. I got to change that picture. I can't look at him anymore. But we'll just go back to lacrosse. I think that's it. This means that when we do want to try to do something, when we do want to say, look, there's got to be a team fee and we got to pay it up front, and you sort of have to have your kids commit to paying a $30 fee online, you have to know why we're doing that. We have to do that so that we know that we have 8 teams or 20 teams, and we're going to have articles about them, and we're going to have write-ups on them. We're going to have power rankings. And why are power rankings and pictures important? It gets a viral audience going, and it exposes the knowledge that this exists to hundreds of thousands of people. And so it seems like it's different from our club and our college experience. Same thing, why do we have to run their tournaments and their games differently? They aren't little mini club players, they're high school kids. And those are high school kids whose lives are still dictated by parents. And those parents can either be detractors of us or they can be the best volunteer coaches. They are going to start, we will get to a point one day where our volunteer coaches are not ex-Ultimate players, but very well-educated parents who play baseball, but they're very good at coaching, and their kid wants to play Ultimate, so they're going to be the best dang Ultimate coach they can be. That's going to happen one day. We're going to have games in the future where BYU and the U play each other on a Friday night under the lights, and the only reason it matters is because it matters. It's not going to. No longer do we have to say, well, it's not a USA Ultimate game, and it's just a game in January, so we're just going to run our scrubs and we're going to run around and Ryan's going to put on his gold suit and spandex. That's not the place for that anymore. That game, that's a hat tournament game. This game, this collegiate game, is a game where we say, hey, this is a collegiate sport. We're going to introduce you to that through this avenue. And so we have this opportunity to sort of segregate our ultimate experiences. This isn't old school club. This isn't a super lazy hat tournament, or this isn't a preseason warm-up tournament. This is a collegiate activity. This is a high school state championship for student athletes. So I would just, my message, I have nothing to say to you other than this is happening, and I would implore you guys to get involved. as a high school coach, you guys, your reach is huge. You guys are reaching 20 and 30 high school kids, but more than that, Marcus is the only guy in here that is going to be directly working with the city of Springville. And so if Marcus chooses to do something stupid or lame or maybe off, he affects all of Springville. And so that's a huge opportunity lost. So Marcus, don't blow it, okay? But we just sell the message. Make sure you guys are volunteering. Make sure you guys understand why the 5 of us do what we do. We're trying to get Ultimate to a place that it's going already, but we're trying to make sure that Utah's on the right side of that coin, that we're ready for it, and that we're all excited about it, that we can get the most kids in, we can get them in our jet stream, that we can get them on our club teams and with our message. So I think that's it. That's